Welcome to another episode of Meal Prep Monday. I'm your host, Allison Schaaf, and today, in honor of Mother's Day, I am talking about something that I call 24 hours of me time. Before I dive in, a quick reminder that if you have not tried the Prep Dish time-saving meal prep meal plans, you can head to prepdish.com/MPM, short for Meal Prep Monday, and try out 2 weeks for free. This is a great way to have access to all of our plans, including the low carb, the paleo, the super fast plans. I really recommend you start with the super fast. It's an hour of prep time for a week's worth of dinners. But with that 2-week trial, you really have a chance to poke around, see all the different styles of meal plans, try them out. It's risk-free, so you can cancel at any time to avoid a charge for those first 2 weeks and just see if it's a fit for you. Okay, so today's episode, I will start off by saying slightly off topic for meal prep. That just has started happening from time to time. I hope all of you don't mind. Of course, if it's not a topic for you, you can skip this episode. But I will give out the caveat. So this is in honor of Mother's Day, something that I recommend, or I don't know. I don't know if it's like a recommendation, but kind of like a suggestion or something for moms. But that being said, if you're not a mom, don't skip over this episode. This is something that I have started, a practice I started after becoming a mother, but it's something I really could have used before I was a mom, before I was married. So maybe listen through, see what resonates with you. Maybe there's some version of this that would still be very, beneficial for you. Maybe there's a version where it's something that makes sense for you. So I think that'll make more sense as you hear my story and how this has worked for me. And I think for anyone listening, listen in, see what this looks like for me, but know that it's looked differently for me at different times. And I think there's so many different versions of doing this, of creating time for yourself, and creating this space for me time that can be done in so many different ways. So if you start hearing it and you kind of get some resistance, I'm going to talk through that and how you could create something like this, and that it doesn't need to be exactly what I'm doing, but there are so many kind of different versions of this. So me time, where did this start? Well, first of all, I'm an introvert. I like time to myself. I always have. Of course, since becoming a mom, that's, harder to come by. We have a pretty, busy household. My husband and I both work from home. The kids are home most of the time. We have an au pair that lives with us. Of course, now, my mom and a caretaker also live with us. But, when this started, that wasn't the case. But our house is always pretty full, and I enjoy that. I love that. It's fun, but there's also times where I'm like, oh, I just crave like some time to myself. And I have tried to figure out how to be really intentional about finding that time and space within my home. But today's story is one of like finding that time and space outside of the home. So I will give background on the very first time this happened. So, and again, I guess a little background before that of like my, this started after my second son was born. I was, I don't know, not really forced, because with Prep Dish, a lot of what I do is, it's my choice. But of course, like, Prep Dish is very near and dear to my heart. I don't want to let anyone down. So I had planned kind of a, time off postpartum, like a little maternity leave. But due to some kind of like turnover right around that time, it really didn't happen, right? Like I ended up kind of going right back into work. And I think in the moment, I wasn't aware that that was kind of more than, probably more than I was ready for, kind of added this unnecessary stress. But for anyone that's experienced postpartum, I think in the moment, it's really hard to be aware of like what you need and what's too much. And, if you're taking on too much. But I was, and it didn't help that with my second, I thought I had the sleep thing down in terms of, I'd done the taking care of babies course and I knew all these things, and this was going to just be an amazing sleeper. And the reality was he wasn't. And I feel like whenever sleep is scarce, it always just amplifies anything that's going on. So, and I think at the end of the day, you can do all the best practices as a parent, but, kids are each different. Their sleep is going to be different no matter what you do. There's, things you can do to help, of course, but, it's just kind of not always, you can do everything you can. And sometimes, at least for me, like that second one just did not sleep as well. So it got to a point where probably about like 4 months postpartum, I really started to recognize, right, that like, okay, I've taken on too much. I need a break. And I kind of started like throwing out to my husband, like, I just need a break. Like, I need to get away. I need to get away. Like, I need something. Like, and so finally I became, I guess, self-aware enough to be like, look, I really I think if I had this break that I'm imagining in my mind, it would really it could make a difference. So I went to him and talked about it and said, if I could have, I want 24 hours at, a fancy hotel. And it doesn't have to be, honestly, it didn't even have to be fancy, I don't think, but in my mind, that's kind of like what I called it. But I was like, I just want 24 hours away. And I created the idea of what this would look like. And for me, it was, and I think there was something in my mind about having the full kind of 24 hours, calculated in my head, because I think it just was really me proving to myself that I had permission to do that for myself, even if it meant, pumping the whole time and, all the things. And I created these guidelines for this time away. One of them was for this first one, no work, only things that were kind of for me. So reading, journaling. I had a journal that I hadn't started that I wanted to do. It was in the spring, so it was kind of nice. So the place I stayed, I went up by the pool and journaled and did all these things. But I decided for me, no work, no email, just things that were relaxing. It was mainly reading and journaling, but I think at night there was some maybe some Netflix or a YouTube video. And I went out to dinner by myself. So one other thing, and I've actually so some things have changed over time. But one thing that stayed consistent is it's not a chance to so I don't live in Austin, but sometimes I'll go into Austin for this time away. And I have a lot of friends in Austin and I love to meet up with them and see them. So I could say, oh, I'm getting a hotel room. I should see all these friends, but this is not that, right? For me, this isn't a time to be social. And it's tempting for me to say, oh, I'll meet someone for dinner, or I'll do this. But to me, one, that kind of adds the stress of the timing and this and that and the other, but also I'm not really getting what I crave, which is time to myself to kind of reflect and I don't know if nourish is the right word, but I'm not the whole point of it for me is this me time that I'm craving so much. And I think what it also does is because it's a very clear, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm getting. Then in the weeks and months after that, I can go back and there's something very tangible that I can tell myself that I had and that I can remember to help me be oh yeah, but remember, if you start, it's this story you tell yourself of oh, I'm so stressed or I have so much going on or I never get time to myself. Oh no, I actually I did, I had this time to myself. I can and in the future I can do this as well. So it's really something to kind of hold on to in my head and remind myself that, I do get this time to myself. So that's what it looked like. In the morning, it also included a very long shower where I washed my hair because that still doesn't happen as frequently as it should with kids. But yeah, that was that first one. Since then, I've done it a few other times. The most recent one I did, I actually changed it up and actually did the opposite where it was a time to focus on a work project. So it was very much hey, I'm going in to do this work project because sometimes at home I work, right now I'm in an office, the kids aren't here, they can't see me, but if I go into the house, they're there. And so I feel if I need focus time of hours to wrap my head around kicking off a specific project for work, being in a hotel room by myself is very helpful for that. And being able to just kind of have the space of, and I say 24 hours, it does not have to be that, but having the space of a certain amount of time to myself just allows me to focus on that one thing. So that's the most recent one. And it's just, kind of tuning into myself and what do I need? And to me, for this most recent one, I was like, look, I really need to focus on this work project. And I came back feeling, work actually energizes me. I love what I do. I love being able to spend time on that. And of course, one of the best benefits is like when I come back, I'm very much, and believe me, I always spend some time on my phone, like looking at photos and watching videos and missing my kids and missing my family. And I think that that's very helpful to go through that. And, when I come back, I'm definitely like energized and excited to be back with my family. I know I'm airing this episode in conjunction with Mother's Day. I don't know. You could totally do this for Mother's Day. And I know that there's kind of this debate, like, is Mother's Day, should it be something where you spend time with your kids or should you want to spend time away from them? For me, I'm kind of in the camp of like, I love my kids. I love my family. They're adorable. Like, I can't get enough of them. I would prefer on Mother's Day to like spend it with them. But that being said, I think a gift to yourself for Mother's Day could be like, okay, maybe there's a family activity you do for Mother's Day, but then maybe there's some me time that is kind of associated with Mother's Day as well. And then I'll talk a little bit just about different ways this could look. And maybe you've listened to this and you're like, well, this is easy for you to say, like, you have, childcare, or, you can take the time off work. And I understand completely, right? Like maybe you're in a season of life where it's just not possible. And, those first few months postpartum, like I didn't feel like it was possible, right? Like I was nursing a baby, like even just the thought of like leaving my baby for 24 hours was like really hard to wrap your head around. And maybe you're a year postpartum, that's still hard for you to think about leaving your baby for 24 hours. And I get it. Like everyone has a time where they're comfortable, like with that, and like having the support. Like I'm very lucky, I have the support of my spouse in doing this. I think he recognizes that it's, healthy for the family, for our relationship, for all of the things. But maybe that's like not the situation you're in. But I think taking the idea of this, there's a lot of different ways it could look. It could look like, saying, hey, on Saturday morning, let me splurge and take the kids to my parents' house. And I'm going to go to a coffee shop and journal, because like before I had kids, I loved going to coffee shops and like being able to like stay there and get bored and like journal. So maybe you could do that and, find someone to help out. Or maybe you want to do an overnight, but you don't have the budget for a hotel right now. Maybe you have a friend that's like going to be out of town for a weekend and you could ask, hey, can I, stay at your house, or someone that has like a guest room or something, or, maybe there's another place you could stay to get that night away, or, a day away could be at a coffee shop or a spa or something like that. And, think about what you need in the moment. Like I said, for one of the times I went away, it was like, okay, I'm not going to work or check email, but maybe there is a project or, and something. I think it is helpful if it's a project that you're kind of like into, or something that's creative, or, something that just really kind of gets you energized and feels like it's something for you, is really helpful. So, think about what that is. And that might be very different than, than what it is for me. But figuring out kind of that time and space. And I would say like there are many versions of this that I, do at my, at home, like, sitting up and sitting in my chair and lighting a candle and reading or journaling and all of those things. Just being very like aware and intentional that like those help me to feel like, I don't know, like I have the time and space. Cause I think a lot of it can kind of be head trash, right? Like, again, like even if you don't have kids, like you can, or at least for me, right? I can get into this, I don't have a lot of time, or there's so much going on and I don't have time for that. But the truth is like, you look at your 24 hours in a day, 168 hours in a week, and figure out like, where are you spending your time? And, what are the things that are important to you? And how could you add in an hour of something that makes you feel like you're giving back to yourself, whether that's reading or writing or going for a walk or hanging out outside, or, doesn't need to be something productive, right? It's probably better if it's something that's not productive. It's kind of like more indulgent. Maybe, I know people always say take a bubble bath. I mean, for me, that actually does feel nice, but maybe for you, it's, sitting outside on a swing on your front porch with, like a gossip magazine or something like that. But, anything like that just feels a little more indulgent and can be kind of just this time to re-energize. So I hope that's helpful. I know this is like very much off topic of meal prep, but I know a lot of you listening are moms, or even if you're not a mom, you are, maybe craving some time to yourself or ways to get back to spending time with you and finding those times to give back to yourself. So this episode in particular, I would love to hear some feedback from you. Like, did this resonate with you? Can you relate to this? Is there a way, like, did this, maybe you're already doing something like this, or did this inspire you to find some sort of me time practice? And if so, like, I'd love to hear kind of details on what that's going to look like for you. So yeah, let me know. I'm at Prep Dish on Instagram, or if you want to start a thread in our Facebook group, if you're in there, we're pretty active in there. So if you have some ideas or want to share some thoughts on this episode, feel free to post in there as well. And again, I hope this kind of hit in the right way and inspired you versus I don't want this to come across of like, add more stress to your life. I'm hoping it gave you some ideas to maybe take away some of the stress in your life. So let me know. And with that, I will wrap up and we'll be back again next Monday.